Hello, welcome to Eye on Africa here on France 24 with me, Jean-Emile Jameen, covering all the news from across the continent. It starts with these headlines. We revisit Angola's capital of Luanda, where thousands of UNITA opposition supporters streamed into the streets this weekend, protesting against the government and the loss of the 2022 elections. Then Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa and the AfDB's Akinwumi Adesina have met with creditors this Monday to address the country's $21 billion debt. Leaders in Harare outlined plans for a debt clearance roadmap in collaboration with the IMF starting in January 2025. And in Senegal, wrestling dominates cultural importance, captivating the nation as one of the most popular sports. The country's biggest wrestling event, the Combat Royal, has just taken place this Sunday with Modou Lo crowned king of the arenas. Welcome to the show. We start off this edition taking you back to Saturday in Angola, where thousands of opposition supporters took to the streets of Luanda in protest against the government. This was the first large demonstration since the disputed vote of 2022, with President João Lourenço very much the target of the anger. Here are just some of the grievances aired by those protesters.
Even with the odd jobs I do, it doesn't solve anything. It's hard to buy for the children. I have children at school and nothing is solved. So we're here to march against hunger and poverty. And we have to support UNITA to see if they can free us.
I took part in the march. The police tried to disrupt us, but we managed to reach our destination. We marched against hunger and poverty. There are too many hungry people.
Our correspondent in the region, Emmett Livingston, sent us this explainer telling us more about the emotions fueling the dissent.
Several thousands of people streamed through the streets of Angola's capital, Luanda, over the weekend, carrying banners describing the ruling government as a dictatorship and demanding that President João Lourenço step down. The march was organised by the main opposition party, UNITA, which said that it was protesting hunger, poverty and the violation of democratic rights. But civil society members also took part in the march, which was not intended to be party political. The event marks the first mass demonstration in Angola since the general election in 2022, which the ruling MPLA party won with 51% of the votes. UNITA, the opposition party, rejected those results, saying that they did not match the party's own tallies. Central to the anti-government march on Saturday was the issue of hunger and the cost of food. Much of southern Africa has been subject to a devastating drought this year, and Angola has been hit hard. The vast majority of the country's population survives via subsistence agriculture. But for the poor, deteriorating living standards are a hard pill to swallow, especially since Angola is rich in oil. The country is the second largest producer in Africa.
Staying in southern Africa, Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa and African Development Bank President Akinwumi Adesina hosted a meeting in Harare on Monday, along with creditors and development groups, to discuss ways to clear its $21 billion debt and arrears. The United States also rejoined the debt clearance talks, having withdrawn in protest of the 2023 elections. Washington emphasized the need for reforms in governance, transparency and human rights. Farai Mugano brings us the latest from Harare.
Zimbabwe's debt has left the country locked out of international capital markets for over 2 decades. Zimbabwe is owing over $21 billion in debt in arrears to several multilateral funders, including the World Bank and the Paris Club members. The country has been making quarterly token payments. In today's meeting, there were calls to support Zimbabwe's collective efforts in the debt clearance.
The $21 billion debt of Zimbabwe, of which the bulk, I must say, is actually arrears, has made arrears the new debt, like stacks, piles of sandbags on the back of Zimbabwe. Now, we all agree we must play our part to correct this anomaly and give a new lease of life to this nation and its people, so Zimbabwe can run. Run. To build first-rate schools, run to build infrastructure from transport corridors, railways and power transmission lines, that would integrate the entire SADC region and boost economic growth and create a lot of jobs.
Zimbabwe has been facing decades of economic crisis, unemployment and high inflation. The debt clearance dialogue is seen as a first step to Zimbabwe's economic recovery. Zimbabwe is expected to start working with the International Monetary Fund in January 2025 to map out a roadmap to debt clearance.
That was Sharon Mazingaizo there reporting from Harare. Some more news coming on Sunday. South African writer and poet Bronkbach, a staunch critic of apartheid, passed away in Paris on Sunday at the age of 85. Known for his powerful poetry and autobiography, Confessions of an Albino Terrorist, he fiercely opposed the racial oppression of the white minority government's apartheid regime. Arrested in 1975 for his involvement with the African National Congress, Bronkbach spent 7 years in prison. After his release, he continued his activism in Paris, his work deeply rooted in themes of exile, identity and justice, leaving a lasting impact. He's survived by his wife Yolande, daughter and grandsons. Let's take the focus now to Uganda, where despite the enforcement of one of the world's most restrictive anti-LGBTQ+ laws, a group of 20 plaintiffs has now won compensation for torture and violence during a homophobic arrest by authorities in 2020 amidst the COVID crisis. Clément Di Roma has the latest from the region.
All victory for organizations defending LGBTQI+ communities in Uganda. The country's High Court has awarded around $40,000 in damages to 20 men and women who were arrested and tortured in a Kenjera suburb of Kampala in 2020 during the COVID-19 lockdown. The 20 victims were tied up with ropes and publicly beaten and paraded before cameras by police who denounced them as homosexuals. The judge ruled that these actions constituted torture, inhuman treatment and violated the plaintiff's right to privacy. The case shocked the Ugandan public at the time as videos of the arrest and torture were shared on social media. The plaintiffs spent 50 days in detention, during which they were violently beaten by law enforcement. Despite this victory, rights organizations have documented several hundred cases of violence against LGBTQI+ individuals since the adoption of an anti-homosexuality law in 2023. This highly controversial law imposes sentences of up to 20 years in prison and even the death penalty in certain cases.
Kenya and Mayotte, a French overseas territory, have signed a trade deal to strengthen economic ties and streamline trade. The agreement signed in Nairobi involves the Mayotte Development and Innovation Agency and the Kenyan National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. This partnership is set to unlock new markets for Kenyan businesses and enhance Kenya's growing trade ties with the European Union. Olivia Bizot tells us more from Nairobi.
This project, Daraja, which means bridge in Swahili, hopes to improve trade relations between France's overseas territory of Mayotte and Kenya. Right now, Kenya only accounts for 3% of Mayotte's trade with Africa. This deal is hoping to change that by focusing on key sectors like agriculture, tech, the blue economy and tourism. Now, by signing this deal, Kenya is not only improving its trade relations with France through Mayotte, but it's also opening doors to improving trade relations with the EU as well. This will complement its recent economic partnership agreement that it signed with the EU last year, and that boosts Kenyan exports into Europe.
So this presents a big opportunity for diversifying and even increasing our Kenya's exports. If this opportunity is well utilized, actually France, through Mayotte, will be the first destination, the leading destination for our Kenyan exports.
This is a pivotal moment for Kenya, as with France, it's not just about one country. It's a world gateway to the European Union. It's like opening a door to new opportunities for Kenya and Europe.
Mayotte is located in the Indian Ocean between Madagascar and Mozambique. It's just a 2-hour flight away from Nairobi, so it's a lot closer to Kenya than it is to France, which is about a 9-hour flight away. But despite that, Mayotte currently imports most of its food from Europe. So this deal will definitely improve trade and facilitate the logistics for both sides. Mayotte's market is valued at around €1 billion, so Kenya will be able to tap into that without breaking the bank in terms of transport costs.
And finally, we go to Senegal, where the biggest wrestling event, Combat Royal, saw title holder Modulo defend his crown against Dakar's Sitou. The intense match, filled with mysticism and tradition, captivated the nation. After 20 minutes of fierce battling, Modulo won on points, retaining his title as king of the arenas. Reminder that Senegalese wrestling, blending sport and culture, reigns supreme over football in popularity. Our correspondents Caitlin Kelly and Eliman Ndao report.
It's the biggest day in Senegal's wrestling calendar, as champion Modulo takes to the ring to defend his title against Dakar suburban legend Sitou.
Modulo is going to win. You will see fire as soon as the referee blows his whistle.
We must have a new king today. I hope that Sitou will triumph.
Mysticism and ritual dominate wrestling in Senegal. Fighters often wear magical charms known as gris-gris. And at this arena, Modulo performed the back, a traditional dance of Senegalese wrestlers, while Sitou covered his body in ornamental jewelry. Both are fighting for the title of King of the Arena.
This is my first time. This is huge. This is the best. This is like gladiator. Yeah.
20 minutes of fierce fighting between the two wrestlers, both desperate for victory. Led to no obvious victor. So it was a close call when the referee declared Modulo winner.
It was an intense fight. It was explosive. It was a fight where there was brawling and pure wrestling. In the end, it was Modulo who was declared the winner on points 3-2. That's why Modulo retained his crown.
The victor has dominated Senegalese wrestling for over 5 years, as traditional wrestlers trump football players when it comes to the country's sporting stars.
Unbelievable athletes there. Modulo, congratulations on retaining your crown. That's where we leave you with Eye on Africa. Don't forget to look it back up on our website, france24.com. It's all the news for now. See you soon.